Listen close now, because this is the story that echoes through every ballpark, every sandlot dream, every swing that dares to reach beyond the possible. This is the legend that refuses to fade. From the cobblestone streets of Baltimore to the cathedral spires of Yankee Stadium, from the whispered prayers of desperate seasons to the thunderous roar of 60,000 voices rising as one, they called him Babe Ruth. And tonight, as shadows lengthen across the diamond and memory stirs in the summer air, picture it first, Baltimore in 1895, a city of steam and sweat. We ask the question that haunts every generation: why will Babe Ruth always be baseball's greatest legend? In the narrow streets and crowded tenements, where factory whistles mark time and children learn early that life gives no guarantees, he skips school like it's a game, hurls rocks through windows like he's testing the world's patience, a boy with restless hands and a hunger that gnaws deeper than empty pockets. His parents, German immigrants who tend bar and work their fingers raw, love him as they can but cannot tame the wildfire burning in his 7-year-old heart. Steals apples and candy with the brazen confidence of someone who believes rules are meant for other people. But the world has its own rules. His father makes that long, silent walk with him through Baltimore's morning mist. The iron doors clang shut behind him, and for most children, this would be the end of dreaming. The orphanage is strict as winter, cold as stone, speak only when spoken to, and learn trades meant to prepare them for lives of honest labor and quiet resignation. A baseball diamond, rough and patched but real as hope itself, watches this wild new boy and sees something burning brighter than rebellion. To swing a bat not as weapon but as wand, under Brother Matthias's patient eye, the boy learns to channel his storm into something beautiful, a swing that cuts the air with the sound of thunder, promising rain. By 15, George Ruth can pitch with the fury of an angel and hit with the power of legend in waiting. Even the brothers gather when he steps to the plate, sensing they're witnessing something that will outlive them all. In 1914, when Jack Dunn of the Baltimore Orioles comes scouting, he finds not just a player but a force of nature barely contained in a 19-year-old frame. The Orioles players, amused by how this giant kid follows Dunn around like a faithful puppy, start calling him Jack's Baby, a nickname that will echo through eternity. His minor league career is a blur of strikeouts and home runs, a preview of wonders to come. The Red Sox recognize his worth and purchase his contract, bringing him to a city hungry for heroes and tired of waiting for miracles. First makes his name as a pitcher, and what a pitcher he becomes. His left arm is a thunderbolt, his curveball a question mark that batters can never quite solve. Throws World Series shutouts that leave opposing teams shaking their heads in wonderment, and helps deliver Boston a championship that feels like divine intervention. Something else stirs within him, a deeper hunger that no mound victory can satisfy. He wants to hit every day, every inning, every chance the game will give him. He argues with managers, pleads with coaches, demonstrates again and again that his bat carries magic his arm alone cannot match. Remember when baseball moves like chess rather than lightning, when home runs are accidents rather than intentions, and rule the diamond like gospel truth. In 1919, allowed finally to play the field regularly, he launches 29 baseballs over fences that had stood unmolested for decades, when 5 was respectable, when 1 could make headlines. Each blast sounds like a cannon shot, announcing the end of one era and the violent birth of another. Fans who come expecting bunts and stolen bases leave their seats having witnessed revolution. Financial pressures and perhaps a failure of imagination lead to the transaction that will haunt Fenway Park for 86 cursed years, $125,000, and the promise of a Broadway musical loan. History will call it the worst trade ever made. It simply seems like business. New York changes everything. In his first Yankee season, he doesn't just break his own home run record, he demolishes it, launching 54 balls into seats that had never seen such violence. Newspapers dedicate entire sections to his daily exploits. By 1921, he's reached 59 home runs and a slugging percentage that seems mathematically impossible. Sensing they might witness something that will live in their grandchildren's stories, his swing becomes art, his follow-through so complete he nearly spins himself off his feet. When he connects, the crack of bat on ball sounds different. Then comes 1923 and the opening of Yankee Stadium that Ruth built rises in the Bronx like a monument to possibility itself, its dimensions crafted to suit his particular brand of magic. That year he bats .393, drives in 131 runs, leads the Yankees to their first World Series championship, and establishes himself not just as a player, but as an American institution. He appears in movies, endorses products, travels the country in barnstorming tours that draw crowds larger than political rallies. Babe Ruth becomes the perfect symbol, excess and joy, and the thrilling belief that any limit can be shattered. He drinks like Hemingway, eats like Henry VIII, chases women with the same enthusiasm he brings to chasing fly balls. Reporters follow him everywhere, but his legendary appetites, the dozen hot dogs before games, the all-night parties that somehow never affect his swing, the charity visits to hospitals where he signs baseballs until his wrist aches and leaves children convinced they've touched something magical. But it's 1927, playing alongside Lou Gehrig in what becomes known as Murderer's Row, Ruth embarks on his greatest season, a sustained assault on the record books that feels less like athletics than mythology. Each one a challenge to physics and probability. Remember, this is an era of heavier bats and deader balls, of playing conditions that would horrify modern athletes. His home runs not just frequent but theatrical, towering shots that seem to hang in the air forever before disappearing into stands packed with believers. He becomes America's first true sports celebrity, his fame rivaling presidents and movie stars. Children across the country swing broomsticks in backyards, pointing to imaginary fences before taking their cuts. His name appears in newspaper headlines even on days he doesn't play.
Bold, optimistic, convinced that tomorrow will always be bigger and better than today.
1932 World Series against the Chicago Cubs. Ruth faces a hostile Wrigley Field crowd that boos his every move. He steps to the plate amid a storm of catcalls and gestures, toward center field, toward the pitcher, toward destiny itself. The called shot that may or may not have happened exactly as legend claims, but captures perfectly the essence of who he was. A man who played as if he could will the impossible into existence. The 1930s bring the inevitable decline. Reflexes a fraction slower than perfection demands. His numbers drop from sublime to merely excellent, failure for someone who redefined what excellence means. His last season, 1935, with the Boston Braves provides one final flash of the old magic, including a mammoth blast that clears the roof of Forbes Field. Retirement brings its own struggles he longs to manage, convinced his knowledge and charisma could shape a new generation of players, but no team offers him the chance. By April 1948, when he appears at Yankee Stadium for Babe Ruth Day, he is gaunt and weak, leaning on a bat for support. Yet, when he addresses the crowd, his voice carrying the rasp of illness but the power of absolute conviction. Baseball is the only real game in the world, he tells them. He dies on August 16, 1948, at age 53, each carrying their own memory, their own story, their own piece of the legend that refuses to die. 714 home runs that stood as the record for 39 years, 2,213 RBIs compiled in an era when protection and opportunity were luxuries. He single-handedly dragged baseball from its small ball past into its power-hitting future. His influence echoes through every generation that followed. Ted Williams studied his swing mechanics. Willie Mays learned his showmanship. Mickey Mantle inherited his power. Hank Aaron chased his records with Ruth's ghost looking over his shoulder. Broadcasters still reach for Ruth comparisons. In Little League dugouts across America, coaches still tell young players to swing like Babe Ruth, not just for the power, but for the joy, the confidence, the absolute certainty that this next pitch might carry them to glory. Will anyone ever truly eclipse Babe Ruth's legend?